Good morning. It all started with the ocean. At one point, a fish got curious and came on land. And millions of years later, we are still curious. And we step out of our environment to find a place in the sun. And we discover new territories. And that's our way to grow, to learn, to adapt, and to survive. So it's not that every discovery makes an impact on the survival of the species, but it definitely makes an impact on the discoverer. It makes us happy, and it makes us function. And one way to nurture this nature is to use creativity. So creativity can be increased, and we can all work to increase our creativity, and it has different specific application, but the pattern is kind of the same. And I am a paper cutter, and it's hard to make a living as a paper cutter. So I have adapted my cut design for making architectural work for fences, balconies. I also do digital illustrations with a lot of colors. And I also do paper cut that I later put on the computer to make colors. And that was with the Art for Transit for the subway in New York City. I also use other material like glass with different techniques for public art, and also metal. So I love to do collaborations. So I collaborate with design and pattern maker for making wearables, experimentals, and then applications with developers. So this one is an iPad app, virtual aquarium with jazz mermaids. And I also do collaboration with 3D filmmakers and animators. So here an excerpt of my daily battles. So I cut paper. It's a visual writing. So I cut images that tell stories. And I see this unraveling from one material. And most of the time, I'm using Tyvek. It's the same material that wrap buildings and also make the postal envelopes. I see creativity as a link from the personal self to a larger universe, where everything is connected. I see also creativity a place where you can explore possibilities and you can play with ideas. And to organize them, some people would use lists, some other will use charts, and other maps. And for me, I call it visual mapping. And I know exactly how it started. When I was very young, my mother broke her leg while ice skating. And at that time, she was not supposed to do sport for health reasons. So she told some people that she fell from a ladder. And realizing it was not a good idea either, she told other people that she slept on the bathtub. So as a kid, I knew my mother couldn't lie. So I was perplexed. And I had a problem to solve, to understand what was happening. And so I made a mental image that explained it all. It was deeply satisfying. I knew it was improbable, but it was still possible. So the first step to increase creativity is to think freely. We have to remember that there is no creativity police, no idea police, there is even no paper cutting police, and no what the neighbor will think police. So we really have to think in a free way and rearranging the fact and all boundaries. It is like dreaming. When we are dreaming, we look at the world in our own way, through our emotions. And we can play with all our memories and distort anything that needs to be distorted. And we have also to look with the innocence of vision of children before we had any preconceived ideas on what everything is. So creativity is a play part of our life. And it's the land of what if and why not. And the second step for creativity, it's gathering material. It's exposing ourselves to other people, how they express themselves. So if we want to write poetry, we have to read poetry. If we want to do landscapes, we have to visit gardens. We have to absorb the outside world and to be curious and to take notes and make observation. Because we cannot isolate ourselves in an ivory tower. From nothing come nothing. Because we never know when the brain will make a spark between two different facts. And it will surprise ourselves. And it often happens in a time when we are very relaxed, like under the shower, or walking in nature, or even sleeping. And for Archimedes, he had his eureka moment when he was in his bathtub. And for Newton, it was seeing an apple falling, but they would never have discovered anything if she didn't have all that knowledge already in their brain. And that's why we need to be very eclectic in the way we collect information, because there is no borders in life between professional life, hobbies, work, how we like to tie our shoes or eat. It's all one world where everything is connected and everything has connections to other. So we have to be very observant of what's around us. And it's not that it will look the same. On the left, it's images I collected from woodblock print from Japan. I really like that. And the idea that came out of it and surprised me, I thought, well, I can do prints from paper cutting. And I did the prints from paper cutting, the 36 views of the Empire State Building. And also the ideas can make years and years before our synapses make the unusual juxtaposition. When I was living in China, I was often seeing the scrolls in the museum. It was like the emperor visiting the southern province, and I really enjoyed those scrolls. And years later, I was in the subway in New York, stuck between two stations, very frustrated, and that's when I thought that would be fun to make an artist book like a scroll of the whole subway. So it's 55 feet long, and it's called Take the A Train. Because the A train is the longest subway line in New York City. So the whole scroll is like a cross-section of the whole city. So you can see all the life of the city. And the viewer is the one in charge of the motion. Because that was the idea at first, to be in control of the motion. And it was like satisfying to have this idea while I was stuck in the subway. And the creative idea, the good idea, it's not really a new idea. There is no many new ideas under the sun, but it's not important that it's new to the sun. What's important is it's new to us. So we can have, to our taste and to our needs, a universe that we like. And when I was making fences for this building in the South Bronx, the theme was music. So I was playing with like partition, the music note shapes, and suddenly I thought about disassembling the music note into a bar and a ball. And that little trick gave me a vocabulary to address all the different structures I had to do for the balconies, the windows, because everyone has different regulation for the size of the holes. So it was a little idea, but on the spot, when I was trying to address this problem, it was a big solution. And when I was asked to speak at TED, I was paralyzed because I'm a visual artist, and what I use to communicate is images. And it's always strange that people ask me to speak about my images, because if I could use words, I would be a writer and everything would be easier for everybody. But for there, I just thought I want my work to walk on stage and speak for itself. I want to be protected. So I just listened to myself and say, I made a magic cape. So the magic cape was a merger of my cut paperwork and my fences. And I also believe in messy places. That's my studio where I work. And it has low tide and high tide, because I collect a lot of information on the subject I'm working on. And it is a paradox, because the more I collect, the less I have access to it. And I have to recreate in my very imperfect memory what I thought I collected. But sometimes there is miracles. And I was looking for a concept for a book cover about poetry of this Senegalese poet who lives in New York. So I was looking metaphor of poetry. I have butterfly wing patterns on my desk. I looked at Africa maps. And a wing pattern felt on the map of Africa. And I just saw it. I said, that's it. That's my cover. So it gave me a solution, and I think creativity, it's deeply satisfying because it's a tool to bring solutions. And it's to find our place in the universe with what we like, with what we filter from the outside and what makes us a specific self, and how we can share that with others. So the space in between is different for everybody. And for a choreographer, that will be the space in between the music. For a dancer, inside the choreography. For an actor, inside the script. And to find that place, it's concept and it's ideas. And ideas, they go through words. And words are very interesting. I had a friend, when she was very young, she thought that foreign language had words of object and concept she didn't encounter yet. It was other stuff. And when she realized it was the same object she knew and the same feeling she had, but in another language. So she was very disappointed. And I thought it was very interesting because, in a sense, she was right, because every language is rooted in a culture. Even every word we learn, it's the way we learn it. It's rooted. And so by learning new languages, we give a new perspective to our own world. And here it's a word I was looking at, and I was like, do I see it in French or in English? So I did a French illustration with the crane, a skull, and then I have an English illustration of a crane. So learning a language can be a little long. A way to increase instantly creativity is to use the creativity of others. And it's called collaboration. In collaboration, we invite people to our world and we go to visit theirs. Here, it's at St. Mary's Children's Hospital in Queens. I went to see the children, showed my drawing, and asked them, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? So with them, we created the Children Dream Hospital Castle. And in another workshop in low-income housing in the South Bronx, with the kids, we began to work on what are the metaphors of things that make them happy, that they want in their neighborhood. And from their drawing, I made the fence that go around the neighborhood. So collaboration, it's creative time. It's creation and recreation. It's to find a time and a space to share with others. That can be classes, workshop. It can be a phone call. It can be a brainstorming session, meetings. It takes many forms. But it's to share and just shoot all the silly ideas and play with them to see. And it's all serious fun. Because the fun, it's like the 1% spark of those ideas we collected, and they surprise us by making an hybridation of another idea we didn't think about. And we have to recognize it, to listen to ourselves. But then the rest, the 99%, it's transpiration, and it is work, because we have to implement those ideas. And the implementation might be convincing other people we have a great idea. It can be also finding funding, finding material technology to make it, marketing, how to sell, and most of the time it's all of the above. And that's when comes daily practice. Daily practice, it's when you use your creativity as a muscle. It's day in, day out, it's like breathing, to take the energy from the world to you, and world, it goes back. It's like a cycle of filtering everything and working with it. And in that sense, we create a very comfortable nest and refuge on creating a world that we grow. And in the grown world, I have different friends. I have mermaids in parachute, because we never know where we're going to land, and never adapted where we are. And I have also people living in water tower, because we cannot see everything with our naked eyes, but we need our dream eye. I also have overworked business angels. And birds. Because with birds, we can discover new worlds, and that give new perspective on what we are doing. So at the end, it's all about balance, because the secret is that there is no secret. We have to be open and present to the world, curious to get the information, filter them, and find what we want to do. And then we have to share it, because it's only with the shared creativity of everybody that we can design and imagine the worlds of tomorrow. And they can be anything we want. Thank you.